Hello there. If you are looking to organize your tiny pantry, or you might have a big pantry that's just very unorganized, well, feel free to come along. Today I'm going to declutter my tiny pantry in my tiny kitchen behind me. And yeah, let's get going, shall we? Hello friends, and welcome to Simple Essentials. If you are new here, my name is Emmy, and this channel is all about simplifying your life in as many ways as possible, whether that be through budgeting, meal planning, organizing your house, organizing your thoughts, all sorts of things like that. And the reason for this shelf cooking lockdown series is twofold, as you can probably guess by the name. I'm based in Victoria, Australia, and at the moment we're going through pretty hard lockdowns here where we have to spend an awful lot of time in our homes. And most of us don't like that, but I thought I'd make the most of this time and help you guys out with some inspiration as well. And the second reason, and you may have seen it if you're an avid YouTube watcher like me, you might have seen some channels talk about shelf cooking or shelf timber. And the whole concept of that is actually to use up the food and the things we already have in our home and in our pantry. So you'll see it in a minute. I have actually done a previous video, which I will link up here as well, where I organized my pantry a little while back. The system is mostly working, but because we're spending so much time at home and we're eating pretty much every single meal at home, actually we are eating every single meal at home, who am I kidding? It's just gotten a little out of hand. We do a big grocery shop every week. We also do meal planning. I will link my meal planning playlist below. It's something that we have done for a very long time pre-pandemic as well, and it's helped us save so much money and helped us stay organized and reasonably healthy as well. But without further ado, let's get into organizing this sodding pantry. It needs a good clean, it needs a good organization, and I probably do need to throw some things away as well. So let's get into it and see how we go. So diving into this pantry, it is a bit of a tricky pantry. It's very skinny and it's very deep. It's deep as my arm, as you'll see in a little bit. And it's just a bit poorly organized. Like I'm pretty short, I'm 5'6", and I need to use a step ladder to get up to those top shelves. But I've been a bit frustrated because I haven't been utilizing the space very well, and the lower down the shelves are, the more stuff we seem to stuff in them. So I was really keen to just kind of take everything out and look at it. The snack shelf I'm a little bit embarrassed by. We're normally pretty healthy people, but this week it looks like we needed some extra treats, which is fine. So it's all just kind of piled in there and it's not really working. So let's see what we can do about all that. So I always start by emptying things out onto this butcher block that I put over where my stovetop is, and I always go from top to bottom when I declutter because I just find that that's easier, especially in a pantry when you need to wipe your shelves out. So on the very top shelf I've got like random bits and bobs that we don't use all that often, you know, things like our blender and those top two shelves there as well, like they were just not very utilized very well. So all that stuff was kind of spread across the two shelves. So obviously just wiping all the shelves down as I go and then just kind of looking through it. So I've got this tub which I rarely use but sometimes use for baking goods and stuff. And then I realized that this protein powder, who had not expired by the way, I had to double check the dates on everything, it actually fit inside the box, which made me super happy. Sometimes when I find space saving, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. So I realized that all those things could actually fit on the very top shelf, and it made me think, what might I be able to move around? And moving down, just actually looking through the cat stuff. So we have a very small apartment and we don't have a lot of space to store Freya, which is our cat's stuff. So we do keep this big box, because the pantry is so deep, we do keep this big box of like overflow things for her. But I hadn't checked it for a while, and I realized as I was opening it up, like I was just finding a lot of things. Naturally, all the crinkly plastic, if you have a cat in your house, you will know that the crinkly plastic and other things just got her very excited. So I just kind of looked through everything, probably similar to those of you out there who have kids, going through the toys, the things that they never play with, the things that are broken, the fancy things you got that they never used. So I just kind of cleaned everything out and emptied it out. And it might sound strange to keep this in the pantry, but on a high up shelf where it's sort of out of the way, it's actually a pretty good spot to keep it. I also found out that we had 3 different nail clippers for her, so we're going to be taking one of them to the in-laws house, I think, in case we ever need to trim her claws while she's there. She was obviously very interested as well because I was touching her toys and things like that. But this is all the crap, to be perfectly honest, that I could take out of there. So looking at the end result, I'll show you a full close-up at the very end, but the top 2 shelves of the pantry are now her Freya stuff and things that we don't use very often. And I cleared up this whole shelf that I can put something else on, and you'll see at the end that I finally found some room for all my baking things. And moving right along down to the next shelf down, which is where I store kind of overflow items and also my Tupperware. And this shelf, because it's sort of a really good height for me, it's very easy for me to reach. My partner is a lot taller, but this is also a shelf where I just kind of mostly reach, but I sometimes like stack and hide things behind each other, and it's a bit difficult to get to. The tubs that you see on the screen, by the way, I bought them from, I think, from Kmart. I'll see if I can find something similar on either Kmart or Amazon. They were very inexpensive. I think they were less than $5 each, and they work really, really well. They came with a lid, I believe, and I don't actually use the lid. I have them stored away somewhere else. And these are some of my favorite food containers. I use them a lot for meal prepping. They're glass bottom, so you can heat them up in the microwave, and a plastic lid. So just some overflow bread and pizza bases and stuff like that. We'd just gone to the grocery store when I filmed this, so the pantry was pretty full. But you can see here that I had started clearing out some shelves, which was really nice. So I'm happy about that. Moving along to the tea, coffee, spices, and canned goods, believe it or not. As you can see in the background with me reaching in, you can see how deep this pantry is. So I actually store a lot of our canned goods on this shelf, but you'll see it's a bit grubby, needed a good wipe down. So just going through the items, giving everything a good clean obviously, and then going through the various items that I had in the pantry as well. So obviously check for expiration dates, and even if things haven't expired, I normally try to rotate out my food pretty well just to make sure that things are not actually going bad and get stuck in the back. So this coconut milk had been in the pantry for quite a while, and I had a meal planning idea to use up my salmon that you might have seen in my previous freezer clean out video, and also some chickpeas that I was going to make hummus with. We always keep tuna on hand. I do quite a lot of tuna salads. Those black beans have also been in there for a while, so they were for a particular meal plan. I often keep canned or sort of those pouches with soup on hand because it's a really quick, easy lunch. And then this is the madness of our tea and coffee and hot chocolate and bouillon cubes and all sorts of things. So it just needed a really good clean out, and it's one of those drawers that I feel like I organize it every second week or every week, and it just piles up. By the way, that licorice tea is some of the best tea in the world. I love it. Yeah, so just going through everything and giving it a good sort of look over, and not too bad, but needed a good kind of wipe down as well. So this is what it looked like in the end. I had everything sort of neatly stacked in there, so it's easy to kind of pull the whole thing out. Some instant coffee. I don't drink it too often, but sometimes it's nice to have it on hand. Some honey for my coffee because I like sweet things sometimes. And this old coffee jar that my grandmother gave me a long time ago. Now, onto the snack shelf, which is just a nightmare. This is obviously a day when we've just been to the shops, but as you can tell, it is absolutely overflowing. And it's one of those things because all the packaging is like odd shapes. And to add to it, at the back of this shelf I also had my baking goods, which wasn't really ideal, and I do try to keep my regular flour and the gluten-free flour that I use for baking for my partner who's gluten-free separate. So it was just all a little bit of a mess. You'll see in a little bit how it turned out. It actually turned out pretty good. Next shelf down, I usually keep things like rice, grains, potatoes, quinoa, onions and things like that. So this one here, I've got dried red lentils that I sometimes use for soup. Normally this is fuller, but this is usually the rice container. And then I've got a couple of other things there, some pasta, etc. And with this one, as you know, like when you buy onions, I don't know if it's the same in the part of the world where you live, but where I live, you normally buy them in nets. But I normally just transfer them over to a little bag like this. Doesn't mean that you don't get those lovely onion bits hanging around everywhere, but yeah, it, it does contain it a little bit, I find. So just giving that a nice little clean out. I feel like I do this quite often. I don't know what it is about onion, it just goes everywhere, but that's fine. But again, I do really love these deep, long, skinny drawers because it means that I can pull the whole container out. If I'm looking for onions or garlic or potatoes or something, I can pull the whole thing out, and I can also reach behind it, which is where I put that big rice container and the lentil container that you can see there. So it's not ideal. One day I dream of having a bigger pantry, but if you're like me, just work with what you have and don't spend heaps and heaps on containers. You can buy pretty cheap ones. Also found some little cloves of garlic, waste not, want not, so I did put those away. Now we're on to the very bottom drawer, which is where I keep sauces, an extra cutting board, and my collapsible pasta strainer. Because we don't have a lot of cupboard space, I also had a big bag of potatoes this particular week, so that overflow kind of went behind there. But this is just gross. I looked at this before I filmed this video and I was like, that needs to get cleaned. Which it did. Look at that, how nice it looks when it's all done. So I just keep some sauces in here, so giving all those bottles a good wipe down. This lemon, lime and bitters flavoring for SodaStream is one of my favorites. We do a lot of SodaStream water in our house. I like bubble water. And yeah, just putting all of these things away. I am stoked with how this turned out. So this is the very top shelf of the pantry. I need to stand on my ladder to reach it. Next one down is the cat's snacks and stuff that we reach for every single day. Her food, a thing that we put in her food to help with her teeth a little bit. Next shelf down, I've freed up for all my baking items, and I love this. I actually ended up getting a container to put some of those items in the middle of that shelf in. This shelf here didn't change too much from the beginning, but I had freed up and removed a lot of the items that were kind of stacking up against the side there. Here is where I keep my plates and bowls, and I did take this quick shot once I'd filled it up after I'd emptied the dishwasher that same night. Next shelf down here is where that tea and coffee and the canned goods, so that's all stacked really neatly and really easy to get to. It's not the best pantry, but I feel like it's, you know, I have to do the best with what I have. And next one down, we've got the snack drawer, and look how much room there is in this one now. So I've got a little container there, and at the back I've got the big bulky items. Normally it's not this stacked, but you know, we must have been feeling sad or something, comfort eating that very weekend. Next one down was the pasta grains, things like that. And at the back there you can see the 2 glass containers with rice and things like that. Again, so easy to just pull these drawers out when you need them. And at the bottom here, I actually ended up moving the these 2 items into that container, because every time I pulled that thing out, they would fall over. So eventually I actually did end up putting them inside the bottom container so that they didn't fall over, which was a lot easier to manage. Now I don't have to like rage every time I'm trying to get something out and everything keeps falling over. If you have a small pantry, you'll know what I mean. Okay, and as you can tell, the pantry looks so much better. It was one thing that was kind of driving me a bit crazy, because we're in and out of that pantry. I don't even want to count the number of times in the day, you know, from when we make the first coffee in the morning to having a couple of snacks during our workday to cooking up dinner in the evening. So it is so nice to have it nice and organized. Now, I don't know how long it's going to last for, but I will probably be doing more videos like this in the future. If you like this video and it inspired you, whether you're in lockdown or not, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And finally, if you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel. There'll be lots more of shelf cooking recipes and things like that coming up in September to keep us all motivated and make sure that we don't waste the food that we've already bought in the first place. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to see you in the next video.